that happens, when somebody comes in angry and they feel like they need to be heard, we need to support them in that way, but also give distance and boundaries. So we want to do more listening than talking. We want to allow the person to express their feelings, and we want to empathize with them. So even as Nancy was up here and she started to recognize and point out some things and encouraging the deep breath, that is something that can help somebody in that situation when they're coming in going, oh, okay? You want to stay calm too. Because when I was working in inpatient psych, if I were to come in and there was a huge escalation problem going on, and I came in and like, what's going on? Everything would amplify even more. Instead of me coming in just very calmly, hey, how's it going? And the person could be jumping off, throwing chairs, and be like, all right, I'm just gonna stand right here and just wait. So you want to make sure that if you're going to speak to them, that they are short and simple phrases. You want to make sure that you're using direct questions. This is not an open conversation. This is just like, how are you feeling? It's like, I see that you're feeling a little angry right now. A little? Yeah, I see you're feeling a lot angry, right? So you're just pointing at the things. We want to make sure we're not raising our voice or shouting at the person, because if you shout, just think any argument, if somebody gets louder, the other person gets louder and builds. We want to come in here. We do not want to show fear or anxiety, which can be challenging when somebody is yelling at you, because all those things are coming back up as far as somebody's coming at me and do I need to protect myself? And so we need to show that we are here and we're calm. We need to stay that way. And so even if you're not feeling it necessarily, you could physicalize yourself being grounded. Just even here, I'm putting my feet very solid on the ground. I'm just like standing. Okay, what do we need to do? And again, try not to take anything they say personally. So that's where, after we have a little break, we're going to do some major self-care for all of us today. Because when you have those hard conversations, especially if it's anger that's coming at you, we want to make sure that we are able to deflect that and not take that on. We also want to do not want to do anything to further agitate the person. So we want to avoid any nervous behavior. If you look nervous, they're going to get nervous. If you start shuffling your feet, or you start fidgeting, or if you make abrupt movements, or if you're talking too fast, right? If somebody's talking too fast and you can't understand it, it's like, and then you're trying to comprehend what they're saying and your emotion is already heightened, it's going to be very difficult for you to hear them. So just like the other person, they are not going to be able to hear you if you're talking too fast. If you start fidgeting, that's showing that you're not paying attention, so they're going to amplify even more. And if it's necessary to move close to the person or make physical contact, you should ask permission first. Right? So if somebody's overly agitated, I'm not going to walk up and be like, hey, right? That person immediately is going to go into a defensive mode. Whether that's coming at you, whether it's running away, we want the person to feel okay. So sometimes if somebody that I see is upset, I'll just ask, do you mind if I sit next to you? If they go, no. Okay, all right, I'll just take a step back then to give you some more space. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay. Compared to me just coming up and just sitting back down, I'm immediately coming into their space and they're not feeling safe. So another thing to look at is ask them if you would like them to diminish or decrease some of the distractions with stimulation. So when I'll walk into the milieu, somebody's having a really difficult time and they're acting out with their behaviors, if I can ask them, would it help if I just turn the lights down a little bit? Oh, that'd be great. And if you notice that they're just like overwhelmed with what's happening in the room, okay, we're gonna clear the room. Everybody head to your rooms. We're gonna just manage this right here. Because they feel all the eyes on them. We want to diminish any of those distractions so they can just focus on the one person instead of all the other things that are going on. We want to make sure that if one more person present, that you want to try to create a safe space around the person so they don't feel crowded. There was an incident with an organization that we work with and support where somebody had came in to return a lost animal, and the staff member came out from around the desk and went to reach for the animal and touched the person on the arm. And then the person kept the animal and pulled it back, and this was a pretty much a wild animal. It was a big pit bull and it was running around and the guy couldn't control it, so the staff is coming out to support. But what happened was, as soon as that arm was touched, he became very defensive. Like, why are you taking the dog away from me? And there was no verbal communication. And so What happened then, as he became further agitated, more people started to crowd around him, which would make anybody in any normal situation, even if you're just coming in and be like, hey, I gotta return something, and then you have a whole crowd of people from behind the desk coming at you, that's what he was feeling. So then he eventually became physically aggressive. So that could have all been prevented if the person first never touched him on the shoulder. Sorry, elbows, I'm touching my elbow, I'm talking about shoulder. As long as they didn't come out and touch him, and then also it further exacerbated the situation when everybody came out from behind the desk. So there are ways that we can prevent that by giving them the space. And we also don't want to restrict or restrain the person's movement either. We don't want to try to block them from doing anything. We also want to try to gather information about whether the person feels safe. So how are you feeling? Are you seem worried? Is there anything I can do to help? Do you feel safe? Is there something that you're afraid of? Is there anything that's making you feel fearful? You want to let the person know that you're there to help, as Nancy demonstrated coming up and saying, hey, I'm here. And you want to, if the person has had an advanced directive or relapse prevention program, you should also follow this. So as Leslie was talking earlier about this simple worksheet that employees can fill out, that if there's something on there that says, if I start to behave in this manner, these are the supports I need, you can ask, is it time for me to contact so-and-so, or is it time for me to reach out to this person or call this particular number for you? And so letting them know that this is something that they have within their organization to offer support. And then next, if you're not able to de-escalate the situation, this is very important, call for professional assistance. So you can call a mental health service line, or you may need to call emergency services. We want to make sure you're protecting your own physical safety as well. So if the person appears to behave aggressively, these are ways to keep yourself safe in these situations. First, I want to put this caveat, because I remember Leslie and I went to a networking event, and there was a speaker panel, and they were talking about mental illnesses, and they automatically connected mental illness with aggressiveness. So I want to put this misnomer right on out there, that people with mental health issues are not usually aggressive and are actually a much higher risk of harming themselves than others. So I want to put that out there. Just because we're talking about de-escalation does not mean we're talking about a mental illness. Okay? Do not make assumptions about whether the person will be aggressive or not, but be aware of potential risks to others. So we're just basically making sure that we're being mindful of what could potentially happen. We don't want to threaten the person, again, because if you're threatened, how are you going to react? This may increase the fear or prompt further aggressive behavior. We also don't want to respond in a hostile or disciplinary or argumentative or challenging manner. So the way that could come across is if we're asking too many questions of the individual, and they may become more defensive or more angry. And also, if the police are called, tell them that the person may be experiencing a mental health issue, because there are some police stations and departments that have a social worker on staff with them, and so the social worker can come and assist in that situation. So sometimes you may see something and you feel like you need to call the police and say, this person just seems, I guess, kind of off, like I don't know how to describe it, but these are the behaviors that they're doing. I remember one time I had the kids in the car, and there was somebody in our neighborhood with a walking cane who was scanning things and making beeping sounds, and it looked like they were looking for something, but it was just seemed like this really odd behavior for somebody to be doing. They had a backpack on, they looked like they were talking to themselves. So I'm just like, I just want somebody to come out and just check on this person. They're not causing any harm to anybody or to themselves, but if somebody can come check on them. So if you can give the police that information, they'll make sure to send the correct person.